Today's episode of Running It Back is locked and loaded, and oh, is it loaded. But before we get to that, me doing live stand-up comedy right here in Southern California. I know, it sounds crazy, but it is back. At least I'm back. July 9th, 9:30 p.m. right here in Burbank, California. See me doing live stand-up comedy at Flappers Comedy Club. You can check out their site, flapperscomedy.com, for tickets, or you can hit me up as well. But stand-up is back and rolling. That's the important thing. You can see the art form in its purest sense. Can't wait. We are back! Today on the episode, Stuart Thompson joins me. Stuart is a veteran of the comedy game here in Los Angeles, but as usual, we find out more. We found out Stuart's background, where he grew up, how he got into comedy, his interests, and much to my delight, Stuart rides a bike. He rides it for exercise. He likes it. He likes the sport of cycling. Something I grew up doing, so I always have to know more about that. And of course, he surprised me with insight into his upbringing, his career in stand-up, how he approaches it, and his mindset moving forward as well. Get ready. You might feel like you're going to be in a college lecture with this one. I'm not saying you have to take notes, but it might help. Not to mention a very, very competitive round of the Rotten Tomatoes head-to-head game. Little snafu in the categories, but that's my fault. It doesn't affect the game. You'll see what I'm saying. Stuart still gives it his all. Will he be the new leader? Will he be in the dungeon? Or will he score points somewhere in the middle of the pack? I don't know. Or you play along too, see how you do. I think it's so easy. Very special Stuart Thompson edition of the head-to-head game. I think you're really gonna like. So, please put your seats in their upright positions, adjust yourself, and get ready for the episode. Running It Back, my interview with Stuart Thompson. Here we go. Here with me is Stuart Thompson. Stuart, he's a comedian, he's a podcaster, he's a bike rider, as I've noticed. Stuart, thanks for joining me.
It's good to be here, Patrick.
Let me start with this. I noticed you did a bike ride that you put on Strava, which essentially is Instagram for people doing exercise.
Yeah, it kind of is. Sometimes it feels like a weird geolocator, but it is a nice way to track my progress.
Yeah. I was looking at your stats of the ride. You did 33 miles. You had a high-ish average speed. You're 2 hours plus on this ride. How did you choose this ride? How was that ride, though, by the way?
Oh, it was fun, man. So I've been doing this ride. I mean, I live in the West Hollywood-ish area, and I can ride. I like riding long distances. The bike I have is built for that. It's a steel frame, which is a little bit more durable than the usual aluminum frame for all you bike heads out there. And I kind of got into cycling because of the long distance aspect. My fraternity would do these charity rides from Berkeley to Santa Monica over the course of a few days, and my aunt and uncle would do this ride through Indiana. It was a charity thing, and so the way I intellectualize bike riding is like, I can cover a lot of ground. So there's a bike path I can get to that takes me out to Marina Del Rey, and one time I just went, I went to that point where it hits the ocean, and another time I went a little farther down to, like Dockweiler, and then this time I went all the way down to Manhattan Beach. And
I think that's something a lot of people, I don't think they know this about you, but I'm always interested. It's something you and I have in common. We're both comedians, of course, but I mean, I've ridden and raced bikes since I was a kid. So when I saw you ride your bike to one of the shows once, like, whoa, wait a second, Stuart, Tell me about this. Tell me about this bike. I fixed a few comics bikes too.
Oh,
I've had
really?
a few. Yeah, I fixed a few comics bikes. One in the Improv parking lot. Like I brought my repair stand.
Oh,
I
wow.
did it in the on the patio, and then one. I think a couple I've gone to their houses to fix it, which is just sort of a long winded excuse for me to like talk to them about their bikes.
Yeah, I mean,
My
having that skill, is a contribution to the community. So that's cool that
Yeah,
you do
that's a
that.
good point. I didn't even think of it that way. I just wanted to see their bikes.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like, if we can do things that are good for, can help our neighbors, it builds that social thing that we need as people and that we've been missing for, 15, 16 months.
You said you started bike riding because your fraternity in college was doing some sort of bike riding. Is that when you started riding a bike, or had you done it before then?
I mean, I'd ridden a bike before, but it was always like, recreational, like, hey, dad, I want to go ride on the blacktop at school on a Saturday because it's open. I can ride fast, and you know, there's a couple stairs I can clear on the bike. I was always trying to gun for like speed and air. Um,
Air was a big deal from the ages of 8 to about 13. Getting air was huge.
Oh yeah, I mean, like the X Games becoming a thing, and I wasn't like a huge fan of like BMX riders specifically, but a bike was what I had, and I occasionally had a skateboard on hand, and the thing that I enjoyed the most as far as like doing tricks and stuff was riding a Razor scooter.
Oh yeah.
Those came out right at like the perfect age for me. I was like 10,
Mm.
and they were you could fold them up and you could ride them real quick, and they're made out of steel, so if you bang them up it doesn't really mess with them too much, so they're child and idiot proof.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but as far as like riding long distances on a road bike, I never had a road bike until like 5 years ago. I always, like, for
Mm.
the fraternity trips, I borrowed a bike, and
I see.
cause my aunt and uncle and my cousins were more outdoorsy people, and they would plan these bike trips. They'd bike through France, and they've biked all over the country, and like they have bikes that you can take apart and put in a
Mm-hmm.
little
Travel
carrier
bike.
that's,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's basically the size of the wheel, and
Yeah.
you smash it all together, and they can take it anywhere. And so, and they camp and they do all that stuff. My family never really did that stuff, so
Ah.
that wasn't my experience as a child. So once I realized I liked road biking and I have the legs for it because I played soccer my whole life, and the wind for it, and biking is better than running for me because I'm a tall guy, and I I'm not the lightest guy, so it's better on my knees and my um to bike than it is to like run on pavement.
That was sort of my next question into it, especially with cycling. No one finds cycling on their own, at least in the States. There's always some sort of like path that gets you into it. But you played soccer. Did you have a sports background growing up? Were you into sports as a kid? Did you play organized sports?
Yeah, I was into sport. I played soccer my whole life. I There's pictures of me kicking a ball when I'm 2 years old, but I started playing on teams in when I was 6, just like recreationally, and then I started playing competitively when I was 10, and I played competitively on like traveling teams up until college, and then I've been playing recreationally since.
Oh, really? So you played soccer well into college years.
Yeah, I mean, just intramurals.
Did
And I
you like the sport itself? Did you follow teams and athletes as well in the soccer world?
My dad and I come from the perspective because my dad plays, and he was a referee and still is. And my dad would take played for, he started playing when he was 12, and he just liked it. It was very counterculture when he was playing it in the 70s and 80s, in the States, even in California. It was kind of against the grain. But
Ah,
yeah, soccer kept growing in popularity, and California is a place where you can play soccer year round. And whether it's outdoor in the spring through the fall, and then indoor in the winter time. There's programs where you can play pretty much nonstop as a kid, and the problem is soccer is a little expensive if you're trying to play at the higher levels, but um, depending on what team you join, there's opportunities, and I didn't follow a lot of teams when I was a little kid. Like I think when I really started watching it sincerely, I was 12, and the World Cup in Korea and Japan was happening, and my family had just gotten cable to watch the World Cup.
Oh, wow. You did have a soccer inclined family.
My mom is, supportive. She doesn't play, and my brother played when he was little, but stopped, by the time he was 10. But my dad and I, that's what we connect on. And I would travel all over the state, and I, traveled across the country to, do some tournaments, and got to do some camps in Europe. And it was a big part of my life. And it
See, I didn't know that about you. I didn't know the soccer went so deep.
Yeah. I mean, I'm careful about who I talk about it with, because sometimes I want to talk about it with people that are interested, and not with people who don't give a shit or are actively antagonistic to people who like soccer.
So you're saying I shouldn't actively seek out people I see with bicycles and offer to fix them in parking lots?
I mean, like, it's, everyone's got to walk their own path. but I've got a small community of people in the comedy and entertainment world that I talk about it with, and someone wants to talk soccer, I'm happy to. And I think the way in, if someone is on the fence about enjoying soccer, is to go to a game live. You go see it in person. So you get on TV. Some people find it boring. I personally don't, because I get it. But if you see it in person, I think it really heightens the experience. And what's amazing is that the MLS in America has really upped their game as far as the fan experience. There's fans that are, really into it, and, it doesn't matter which team you pick, wherever the team is. I'm sure even if you're playing, watching a non-MLS team, like a USL team, that's the league below, or a college team, or even a high school team, you can probably find a way in. LAFC here in LA, it's a new franchise in MLS. Those fans learned how to be like true fans, get the songs right and all that stuff, from seeing fan groups in Europe do their thing. They learned specifically from Borussia Dortmund, a German club. And so when you go to the Bank of California Stadium in downtown LA, it's awesome. It's electric. So you can really feel the energy that you might not be able to feel watching it on TV.
Yeah, I get that. As someone who grew up following a non-traditional sport in cycling, I definitely was really apprehensive of who I would bring up my love of cycling to, mainly in my college years, because it was very quick before I realized cycling was not interesting to females at all. It wasn't even interesting to males, but it wasn't interesting to females at all. And as far as
find the right lady, dude.
Like, you ever seen Breaking Away? Come by my dorm. I got it on VHS. We'll watch it. All right, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, my girlfriend and I talk about, like, we like sort of playing with the norms of a couple, and she likes objectifying me for my legs, which I've been able to hone and tone.
Not the worst thing to be objectified for.
No, I'm totally cool with it. I mean, I've never really considered myself a buff guy, but I've developed some nice legs, if I do say so myself. And and so she jokes that I should be showing off my man gams more. And it just sort of, because I think men, decades ago would refer to women as like, look at those dames and their gams.
Those gams, right? Yeah. Well, I don't know if you already have titled a first Stuart Thompson comedy special, but if you haven't, Stuart Thompson, nice legs. What about that?
Yeah. I've
or Stuart Thompson, extra time. What about that for your comedy special?
Yeah, that's a good one, man. I like nice legs. I'm that's gonna go on the list,
On the list.
of possible specials. But yeah, it's weird because in comedy, the norm is to wear pants, and everyone should be wearing something on their legs when they're performing, unless that's the show, is the fact that you're not wearing them or taking them off. But
right, it's a very, very known yet unspoken rule that on stage it's pants. You rarely see anything other than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the dress code is relaxed a little bit with all the outdoor shows that have happened, and sometimes you go to an open mic and it's a very casual environment. But if you're performing at a comedy club, it's encouraged subtly that you wear pants. It's the way I rationalize it is, not only is it a night out, but in performance, I only want people to see the skin on my body that is part of the show. I think
makes sense. Yeah. You don't want anything distracting. What if you're strutting around with these well-toned calves? That's going to draw the attention away from your verbal, what you're saying. You're right.
Ladies, some gentlemen, my eyes are up here. It's it's the that's my rationale for it. Psychologically, if someone is showing skin on stage, I'm gonna notice, and I might be distracted. And if the words and the gestures are coming from my face and my hands, that's the skin I want to show. So, typically I'm wearing, long sleeves or rolled up sleeves, and I'm not wearing a scarf on stage. I'm showing you my neck so you can see I'm being vulnerable. I got my palms facing you, so I'm not a threat. These are just jokes. But if I'm wearing sandals or if I'm wearing shorts, people might be like, sure, that joke is funny, but what's going on with these toes? My feet are banged up from playing soccer for decades.
I can't get past that hangnail.
Yeah, man.
And it's like, I'm Stuart Thompson. You seen Stuart Thompson? Oh, the hangnail comic? Yeah. Oh, he's good. I like him.
Yeah, I think we're gonna pass. I don't need that possible foot fungus near my chicken tenders.
You're speaking as someone who takes the craft seriously, someone who's very demanding of the verbal, the words, the placement of it. It sounds like you really want the words to speak for themselves when it comes to the performance. So I get what you're saying.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I've also learned by trial by error. I've worn, I used to wear really bright patterns on stage, and a lot of real, graphic, t-shirts. And
oh, really? I would not have seen that coming from you.
Yeah, I mean, I still do it at like an open mic sometimes, but I also know that if, like, let's say I was wearing a shirt with something funny on it, and that was funnier than the jokes I was saying, I doubt that would happen. I fancy myself funnier than a t-shirt, but it's just, there's so many hurdles in what we do already. If I can get rid of a hurdle or two, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to, it's not always going to be like one person show, like I'm wearing a black turtleneck and, black pants and black shoes, like I'm a stagehand. But if I can, I do want to look good, but I also don't want to, I don't want anything distracting from the words I'm saying.
Yeah. That's why I think we've all, maybe it's an instinctual thing. Maybe it's a human thing. Maybe it's a male thing. We've all done it where someone's speaking on stage and you're just thinking, what's up with that jacket? Like, why are they wearing that? Why are they like that? And that's all you look at. That's all you look at. Like, that jacket's wrinkled, or those pants, they borrowed those pants. And all you can think about is that. And it takes away from the performance. You're right.
Yeah. That jacket's wearing the comic, not the comic wearing the jacket.
Definitely. Or like, I'll do it with when people have long hair. I'm like, why are they wearing their hair like that? Why don't they? And then I just go through all the possibilities they can do with their hair. And then I miss all the words.
Yeah.
I think
I'm
it's
not
just
saying,
a human nature thing, possibly.
and everyone's got to figure that out for themselves. My way is definitely not the highway. It's just the way that works for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I know there's plenty of things that I've seen people pull off that I've not been able to pull off. When it comes to the shorts on stage, Brody Stevens is a fantastic example of, he wore shorts on stage. It made a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, good point.
He advertised himself as basically like a baseball player who happened to do comedy in a lot of ways, and he was just kind of living his life and projecting it on stage, and we all got on board.
Mm-hmm.
So none of these things are set rules. Any rule in comedy is made to be broken. So, and I've seen people pull it off.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though there's a bunch of rules to comedy and performance, it is a broad art form. You
Yeah.
can make it work with a lot of, like you said, trial and error over a long period of time. But it just exactly like you said, it's about finding what the best version of yourself is in a performance state of mind. Where did you start comedy? I think you've been here in Southern California as long as I've been here.
Yeah, I've been here
Um,
for 9 years,
mhm.
nine and change, and I
Did
started
you
comedy.
start here in Los Angeles or somewhere else? Where are you from originally?
I was born in San Francisco, and I started comedy in San Francisco, but I lived all over the Bay. So I lived, we were in San Francisco when I was a toddler, and then when I was like the age I would go to school, we lived in different parts of Marin County, which is, if you go across the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco, that's where Marin is. And then when I was 10, we moved to the East Bay, and I lived in a town called Piedmont, California through high school. And then I lived in Berkeley for college, and that's when I started doing comedy.
You went to UC Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
Was that your, why did you go there? What was your intended, what were you going to study there? What was your major?
It was the best school I got into. That's why, and it's a great school. It's a really rigorous school, and I did not go because I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do comedy. I just liked comedy, and I wanted to go to an Ivy League school. I thought I was going to like play soccer at Harvard or something like that, or Yale, and
Mm.
study economics and make a living, being a financial advisor or something like that. But as you can see, none of that panned out. So this was, the path that was ahead. And so a lot of people in my family went to Berkeley, so I was very familiar with the campus, and the prestige of the school is, incredible. And I still wanted to study economics. I thought that was fascinating. I was learning that in high school, and I thought I wanted to learn more. And it was really, really tough. And I was not doing well in the classes you needed to do well in
Mm.
to be in that major. And so I had done an open mic or two in the beginning of my spring semester of my first year at Cal. So this was in 2009. And I I liked going to it. The concept of going to an open mic was terrifying, but my friend, another guy in my fraternity, said, "Hey, you're pretty funny. I'm gonna go try comedy. Do you want to come to this open mic in San Francisco with me?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, okay." And so we and another friend went, and um, I started writing down jokes and doing more open mics, and then at the winter break of my sophomore year of college, so winter 2009 into 2010, I realized that the writing was on the wall. I was probably not going to get into the economics major. I was getting like consistent B minuses and C pluses in these
Mhm.
classes. You needed a better average to get in. So I, kind of confessed to my parents that I wanted to write comedy and probably switch my major. And so
How did they react to that?
they reacted pretty well. I mean, my mom is a businesswoman, so, and she cares about my security and making sure that I'm set in whatever I'm doing. And so she said, well, if you can figure out how to make money doing this, then go for it. There's
What
definitely not
did
what she
what did your What did your dad do? Your mom was a businesswoman. What was your dad's profession?
My dad was always in sales, so he's very familiar with the hustle element that
Hmm.
goes with sales and comedy, which is a sales position if you think about it. And um, he was pretty supportive. His his position in the family changed. Like my dad was the breadwinner when I was little, and then my mom became the breadwinner when I was a teenager. It just kind of switched, and my mom was the homemaker when I was little, and my dad kind of became a stay-at-home dad. You know, he had different jobs, but he would often work from home.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, now he's semi-retired. So they're both pretty supportive.
What kind of kid were you in these kind of early 20s years? It sounds like you were pretty focused. And then
Yeah.
this kind of was a little bit of a monkey wrench. You're like, I want to follow a different path after a
Well,
couple of years of study. I always think those early 20s, we always say the formative years are those teen years. I always think it's the 20s. For those early 20s where you're a little bit on your own, but you're still not fully on your own. And
yeah.
you have to start making just a few decisions for yourself. When you get that first job, when you try for the first sort of round of goals that you're attempting, I always think those are the more formative years. What kind of kid were you in these kind of college days and in the first days of trying stand-up comedy?
Well, I've always been really focused on whatever I was doing. But that thing changed a lot. You know, one time I wanted to be a computer animator. Another time I wanted to be an architect. I wanted to be an economist. I wanted to be Michael Jordan. I wanted to be all kinds of things. So, but yeah, what kind of helped me develop some focus for comedy is seeing that there was a path forward, and it's podcasts becoming a thing, which they were around that time. They were starting to become more of a mainstream thing in '09 when I was starting. And listening to comedy albums, those two things kind of showed me, okay, there's a thing that can happen here that is doable. You know, I don't quite know all the ins and outs of how much money these things make. It's really unclear in that respect, but comedians seem to be able to make a living, whatever that is. So my goal is to just continue to learn about it and figure out what my place was in it. And I mean, when I was to answer your question about what I was like in my early 20s, I mean, I was a student. I was a college student, and not like a raucous, crazy party college student. I was pretty quiet. I was always more introverted. I still am. I just I was like a comedy nerd of sorts who was doing jokes now.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really have a lot of I didn't have a lot of life smarts. I had all the book smarts, which in a lot of comedy doesn't matter. Sadly, I think it maybe it matters in some ways, but
Yeah,
a
no
lot
one
of it
ever
is
puts their SAT score on their comedy reel. You're right. It's always just
right.
straight to
Yeah,
the
no one
material.
don't need a GPA to get into comedy, which was a real bummer for me. I worked very hard on those things, and those don't matter. So yeah, I was just really focused, and I mean I wore what I thought what you were supposed to wear to do comedy. I would try to dress older than I was because everyone around me was older. I was 18 when I started doing comedy. And most of the people that were starting comedy at the same time as me in San Francisco were 28 or older. So, I'm hanging out with people who are at least 10 years my senior for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple young people, but they went to San Francisco State, or they just lived in the city, or they lived nearby. And I wasn't I made a couple friends here and there, and my network grew over time especially as I got funnier and I found people who shared a similar sensibility.
Right.
But yeah, I had school that I had to attend to. So if I went to an open mic, whether I drove into the city or took the BART into the city, that's the subway train there, I had to leave pretty quickly. So I wasn't really like a hangout person, because I couldn't.
So you were still focused. You still stuck with
I
your
was,
priorities of school this whole time.
yeah, I was still trying to have a college experience. I thought that was important, and that was kind of stressed by my parents as an important thing as well. Like, you know, it's college is meant to be enjoyed, and I learned really quickly that most of the stuff I would learn in college was outside the classroom. But I was, I was in a fraternity. I was in the marching band at Cal. I was full-time student. So the breaching into comedy was a slow start, and then I started visiting LA in the summer of 2010, and I went for 2 summers in a row to take UCB classes and do an internship and do that kind of stuff. And then after that second summer, I realized that I could probably move here, and I moved. I was able to graduate early from college. This is where the school part helped me. I had AP test credits.
Ooh.
That I had about 24 credits, and a semester's worth of credits is 15 on average at Cal.
Right.
So I had a semester's worth of credits taken care of.
Wow.
So
you
I
were
was
one of those AP guys.
I mean, I happened to do well on a couple of AP tests, and so that allowed me to finish school early, a semester early, and move to LA a little over 9 years ago, and just start and I started working at the Comedy Store and started doing shows down here.
I was doing some research on you. I'm listening to your podcast and other stuff.
Every time you say that, that's haunting. Like I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the world we live in.
And I want to talk about your legs some more.
It's time for you to be canceled.
It's time to have a fair and honest discussion about cocoa butter and how far up the leg it should go. Stuart, your thoughts, and I'll take my answer off the air. Thank you.
Huge advocate of moisturizer.
I'm listening to your podcast, and you strike me. You were talking about your years in college. You strike me as someone, minus the academics, that I would be friends with. All my friends were somewhat introverted, not popular, not unpopular, did a lot of hanging out, didn't know where any parties were, but yet sometimes found the parties. Like I remember me and my jack off buddies would just go find a popular girl that one of us had half a class with and go, are there any parties we should know about this weekend? And they'll be like, well, you could go to this one, I guess. And they're like, okay, that's how we would go. Never got invited, but just would have to get intel, would have to do a lot of research. Wow. And then would play video games all night or watch movies all night, with just sort of that core of friends, but largely quiet, largely just sort of would keep to themselves, but you would just sort of hang out. And that strikes me as your sort of similar personality type. But you said on your podcast that you felt you didn't have a lot of life experience when you were in college. What did you mean by that? I had a similar reaction to when you said that, but what did you mean by that?
Well, that's still something I'm exploring. So I don't know if my answer is going to be fully finished today, but I think it comes with the way I grew up, and there's a certain amount of privilege that came with my upbringing, and I think that privilege kind of grew and grew as time went on.
What do you mean?
My mom's very good at her job, and so that afforded us some luxuries, and I think there were certain things that my parents did really want me to learn, and that they impressed upon me, to travel and to learn about other cultures, and to hold on to your commitments. If you commit to something, to see it through, and to academic excellence. That's a big thing in my family. There's most of the people in my family are college graduates, and a lot of people have degrees after that, and that's just the family I come from.
I see.
There is a certain level of I call it life smarts, the stuff that comes from being an adult and experiencing the world and taking life on life's terms. And I think it's hard to encapsulate because there's so much to it, but I think a lot of like learning how to be better with money and learning how to deal with egos. That comes from working in comedy that I didn't, and working in any work environment, honestly, that I didn't expect.
Mhm. Was this a social thing? Do you think you lacked social abilities?
Yeah, I still think I do.
Uh-huh.
I still think I'm learning that kind of stuff.
Do you have siblings? You said you had a brother.
I have a younger
How many
brother.
siblings do you have?
Just one younger brother.
Just the one. You're the oldest.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But we're 5.5 years apart, so we didn't have like a lot of the types of adventures that we had as kids were a little limited because by the time he was in 7th grade, I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's only so many experiences you can have pre-college with an 11-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So I had friends, and like I think a lot of the stuff that came as I grew older, like people drinking and drinking to excess and, experimenting with drugs. I had zero experience or inclination to partake myself. I was
Mm-hmm.
so afraid of all that stuff. And I had strict parents. You know, Sometimes I think of my mom as like a white tiger mom, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was so afraid of like to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And
Did you get in trouble though? Were you a kid who got in
but that's
trouble
because I
commonly?
not really. I
No,
mean,
I get, this is where I'm hitting a chord with you. I get the same thing. I had overprotective parents, curfews, rules upon rules. When it came to sports, you had to have a 75 or above grade. And my parents are like, not for you. You're going to have 85 or above. And
yeah,
they would have all these rules. I wasn't a bad kid, Stuart. I never
yeah,
went to parties. I was like, there's no curfew to meet. I will be home. So yeah, I
yeah,
get the social thing where it's like, I felt like I was a little behind when when I went away to college. I felt like I had to do some catching up on top of
yeah.
the fact I went to an all boys high school. So I didn't know
Oh,
what the hell was going on in women's heads other than what was in movies. So I had no idea. So when you said that in college, I was like, I have a similar sort of reaction to that in the sense I was always playing catch up. I didn't thought anybody banged a girl until they were 22. I was like, these guys talking trash like they're banging girls freshman
yeah.
year. They
They're
must
making
be
this shit
making
up.
that up. They're making it up, man. I can't get to 3 minutes in a conversation with a woman. There's no way. I had no idea. I had no idea it could be
Yeah,
done.
yeah. I didn't go to an all boys school, but I hear you on that. And there's a
Yeah, it
certain
was
like
like Lord of the Flies with desks.
yeah, but I can identify with the high expectations. I think that was a big part of my upbringing. The expectations were very high, and I think maybe it was because it was very clear that I had the potential to do really well academically,
Mm-hmm.
and so I got pushed in that respect. And I also had um, I had a lot of discipline. I lived a very disciplined existence, and for me, in my house growing up, an A- was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think my parents have relaxed on that as well. And I've learned to relax a lot more about that kind of stuff, and be really mindful of setting expectations, and make sure the expectations are good for both myself and whoever I'm involved with, in setting those expectations. And um, yeah, I think I just didn't know how to relax growing
Mm,
up because there was no room to.
that's interesting. Yeah. Were you a tense kid? Did you get nervous about being on time, having things correct for due dates and having things studied, things like that? Were you that kind of kid?
Yeah, I mean, I procrastinated because there was a lot of things I just didn't want to do, but I knew I had to do them, and so I'd put off projects until a couple nights before, and be frantically, but I'd also want to do it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Huh.
think the perfectionism is really where I think that's perfectionism is a product of misplaced expectations. thinking that things have to be a certain way in order for them to be considered even acceptable. When in reality, the bar is much lower. But I mean, in our school system, perfectionism is encouraged. You mean, you went to an all boys Catholic school, but like I went to public school, but my public school was very rigorous. And in order
you could have stopped at all boys. We knew Catholic was coming.
there's no secular all boys schools.
It's like when someone says Irish Catholic, we knew where you're going with it.
Yeah, the agnostics and atheists know that that's rubbish.
Presbyterian Irish.
Yeah, so if you want to do well in school, you have to be excellent. And just, if you want to strive for excellence, perfectionism is a nice, kind of lane to be in. And so I think that all that stuff got encouraged. And then as I've gotten more into being an artist in making stand-up, and learning about how jokes are an ongoing conversation and an ongoing development, the jokes I have right now are not going to be the same as the jokes I have in a month or 2 months or a year.
Sure.
So, it took me 10 years to put together the material that would eventually become, the album I recorded. So it's like, I'm slowly but surely stripping away those perfectionist tendencies. I still have them, but I'm learning how to manage them a little bit better.
Did sports help you as a kid with the nervousness, with the intense? Was it an outlet, or was that just a new way to transfer you being intense at something and trying to perfect something?
Soccer is a great outlet for intensity. I mean, it's a great, I think all sports are a good place to channel one's intensity, because most circumstances are not conducive for that. But
in sports, typically you're reacting. You're going with the flow, and you're in the most pure sense, you're in the moment with sports a lot of times. So it can be a good way to get your mind off something. Factor in a higher heart rate just from a biological sense, and you have a really good exercise for a mind body sort of thing there. So but that worked for you as a kid? Sports was a positive.
Sports made me a better loser.
Yeah, that's the other thing sports does for you, is you teaches you how to lose.
Yeah, and I think learning how to lose with grace is important, and because I was not good at that when I was little. My parents will frequently remind me about an experience where we were all playing Candyland, and I think someone beat me, and I threw the game on the ground. So I was like, we got to get this kid in some activities.
God damn it, he's 27 as well. We can't have this anymore.
Yeah, you can't be this competitive all the time. But I've always been competitive, and playing sports is a good place to put that energy. And stand up has been a nice exercise in learning where to put my competitive nature, because it's really easy as artists in the same field for us to compare ourselves to other people. People who do not offer the same product as we do, or the same experience, or the same perspective. And then, sometimes I would see someone, get something in comedy or in entertainment, something I didn't even know I existed or wanted. And then I'd all of a sudden find myself wanting that. And it's like, man, I want to do that. And then, I get pulled in a bunch of different directions, and that's not healthy, or a good use of time. And what's helped during this pandemic is I've been able to kind of really think about, okay, what are the things I actually want to do? How do I want to spend my time in comedy when all this stuff comes back? And so I'm still figuring that out, but it's because it's very slowly coming back in California. But
you're right. We're going to be the last ones. Well, that's a perfect Stuart Thompson mindset strategy. Is let me sit down with these thoughts and let me suss it out. What do I want? What do I want to work towards? I don't think most people would do that, but I think you, speaking of I guess sort of the thoughtfulness the analytical sort of like perspective you have, that makes sense. It's like, all right, let's write some shit down. Let's put it together and let's start moving towards a goal. Knowing what you know now, like the way you grew up, you mentioned the discipline, the structure, the focus on education. Would you raise a child similar to that? Would you keep to that method, or would you change it in a drastic sense? Do you see benefit of it now as an adult?
That's a good question. I don't.
Thank you. That's the end of the interview.
I don't think I would do everything my parents did. I think that's how our species evolves, is, kids growing up into adults or just bigger kids, and realizing when they have children that they're, I don't know if I want to do everything. I mean, I'm grateful my parents didn't, there wasn't physical abuse or, hardcore, emotional abuse in my family. My heart goes out to people who have experienced that. So the things that I want to change, I think, are a little more nuanced, and I think I would probably understand it more when I have children of my own. But I do want to make sure that boundaries are really clear when if and when I have children. What the roles are. The roles need to be clear, and not in the strict sense that like they'll never change, but they just need to be clear. And I do get a little bit of practice with it, working with when I'm not doing stand-up, I tutor children in school, and I do get to sort of practice like having those boundaries with them and their families. And I get to explain why something is the way it is, if I have the ability to explain it. Or if I don't know something, I just say I don't know. And that kind of honesty, I think, is a courtesy. And
How so? What do you mean by that?
Well, when we lie or we beat around the bush or we claim to know things we don't know, that just kind of leads people along. It's manipulative. So, if I were to tell someone that I used to think I was pretty good at AP Bio, for example, I'll give you an example in the tutoring sense. and then I started tutoring students in AP Bio and realized I don't remember as much of it as I thought I did. But for a while with a couple of students, I would hold on because like I could really use this money though. But when someone says, "Hey, can you help with AP Bio?" I just say I can't.
I like that.
And people respect that. I used to think if I said I couldn't do something that I was letting someone down. I still do sometimes, not necessarily with work though. But like when I the more I practice, just being honest and saying, how I feel about things, which I'm not perfect at, the better the response has been. There's no fear, there's less fear around it, when everyone's on the same page. But if everyone's not on the same page, like I say, I can teach AP Bio, and it turns out I can't, then someone's getting fucked over, dude.
I follow. Yeah. It's interesting with kids. I have much more empathy for my parents now, because at my age, my dad had 3 kids. I don't have any kids. So I get it like, hey, remember that time dad took us to Burger King for like 4 hours? Why? Well, he just wanted to get out of the house. He needed a break, and you're like, oh, I'm starting to piece little bits together, how they kind of all made it work. I don't have any kids. My brother has 2 little kids. And every time I spend any time with them, I sort of get it. It's like, oh yeah, okay, this you got to compromise on, this you got to be strict with. This is important. I have a brother also. My other brother is 10 years younger than me. And I remember he was a baby. He was a baby and I was 16 years old. So I do remember having to pseudo parent him, saying like, okay, we're eating lunch at this time, get in the car, seatbelts on. I remember these little things. And I remember specifically, you got to be able to give a lot, because the little kids aren't going to go with you 100% of the way. I remember getting a T-ball set I'm like, great, we're going to learn T-ball. We'll set up the bases. I'll show him how to put the ball on the tee. We open the box. He starts hammering the brick wall with the bat, and he will not address any of the games. It's like, oh, well, I guess that's it. This is as far as we're going to get with T-ball. So
Yeah.
it's interesting, yeah, little kids, how much you got to be forceful on them for their own good and how much you just got to let slide, because it's going to be a long, long day if you're going to get them in line. So it's really interesting that you tutor as well, and you go down that route as well. Now you're dispensing knowledge to them, and then you're still honest about where you can help, where you're better, where you're not as best suited to help as well.
Yeah, I try to manage the expectations, and I just got a cat, and I try to manage my expectations with the cat.
Like, oh, that's a good start.
Yeah, man. It's I mean, with it, I don't want to say humans are just like cats, but in some ways, our interactions with our pets do resemble the interactions we have with each other, and the it just made me think. When I work with my students, like I kind of want to coach them through school in ways that and give them the things that I didn't get, which is, compassion. It's not to say I had no compassion in school, but like I want to make it clear that I can be a source of that for them.
I see.
Because I'll see students that are very similar to me, or I'll see myself and other students, and I'll see them, really banging their head against the wall because they don't understand something. And I'll do, sometimes like when if I'm working with a student on algebra 2, which is a very common subject that students have trouble with, and they don't understand, the quadratic function, which is a big thing that people have to memorize. And it's like, I'll ask them when they're stressed like that, how long have you been learning this? And I'll be like, we just learned it today. They're like, oh, you just learned it today, and you want to be an expert right now? Come on. Just like that. You hear how that sounds, right? It's like, it's like, we'll get this. You can get this, but it just might take a minute. Give yourself some, a break. And I don't think anyone told me growing up, give yourself a break.
I see. I think you hit it on the head there. Yeah, that's almost therapeutic. No one told me give yourself a break.
Yeah,
that's huge.
It's taken
a
while.
And also, how come you were never my teacher? I could have used that.
Yeah, I mean, there's times when I think like, would my contribution to society be better if I was teaching? And I honestly don't know, because that's a hypothetical. The only way to find out would be to do it. But I really like working with students one-on-one, and I really like doing comedy still. So I'm kind of still, that's still the path I want to walk.
You're still figuring it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who says they have it figured out is either wrong or stupid.
I would agree with you on that. I always thought as a kid, adults had it figured out. Do you have this where you're like, you thought every teacher you had in school, all right, they got to figure out. You get to that age and you're like, I didn't figure out anything. What were these guys teaching us? They were a mess too, just like I am now. It's a really weird dynamic.
That builds compassion. Hopefully. It's like, it's like, we're all messes.
Yeah.
We're all imperfect, and we're all trying to make sense of what we have in front of us. And I definitely thought, everyone who was an adult was not only perfect, but right.
And I did too. Yeah, I definitely had that same thought.
Yeah, and I don't know how I thought that, but also saw like the educational system for what it was, because like I didn't always feel challenged in school, and so I saw it as like, oh, they just don't have any work for me. I don't know how I didn't put 2 and 2 together, that these people were imperfect messes, and that like that maybe this doesn't work for every single mind. But I guess that's
tell me how you know Spanish. One of
took it in
the
school.
big well, so did I, Stuart. I took it in school. Half my family speaks Spanish. Half the city I grew up in speaks Spanish. I'm not fluent. I am not fluent in Spanish. So you took it in school.
And
I
mean,
did you study abroad? Were you immersed in it, or you got it?
my brain is wired for learning languages. I don't know what that wiring is, so I can't like tell you like, what you need to be able to learn a language. But I do think that if one starts learning a foreign language before the age of 13, before their jaws start to, like the jawbones start to get into their fixed place, the chances of learning a language and being able to say that language, speak more like a native speaker, helps. And I also practiced a lot.
So there's
a
biological element to it.
A little bit, yeah.
Practice.
I mean, like, when if I want to say, I am in Spanish, I want to say yo soy. People who learn it maybe a little later in life might be like yo soy, because their mouth is used to saying certain letters a certain way or certain sounds a certain way.
Yeah. The age is crucial. I didn't think about that. I'm thinking of it as comparing it to learning skiing as an adult. I learned skiing as an adult. One of the biggest hurdles in learning how to ski as an adult is embarrassment. I'm afraid to fall down. I don't want anybody to see this guy in his 30s fall down on the slopes. But if I'm a kid, no big deal. Same thing with language. If I'm an adult, I don't want to mispronounce the accent incorrectly. But if you're a kid, you're learning it. Maybe you don't have those inhibitions and your learning receptors are a little bit more open than you were as an adult.
I think so. Yeah, kids are definitely less embarrassed, just in general, and they're more honest, and they like, oh, I fell down. Okay.
Right.
Onwards and upwards. But to answer your question, I really liked learning Spanish. I had good teachers. I had friends in my class. I think that helped a lot. And they would they would encourage us to write dialogues and basically, that we would present in front of the class from the very beginning. And I was happy to do those dialogues, but I always wanted to know how to say more stuff than we knew already. So I would be constantly poring over a Spanish English dictionary, figuring out how to say things, how to conjugate new verbs. And I'd be pestering my teacher. How do you say this? How do you say this? How do you say this? And she'd tell us. And so that would allow us to basically write sketches in Spanish that we would perform in front of our class, or do for a video project. And so, I had the discipline and the work ethic from playing soccer and taking karate classes and just having the life I did to like really stick with it. And it was also impressed upon me that if you wanted to get into a good college, you had to take, 4 years of math, 4 years of science, 4 years of a language, 4 years of an art or elective to show you were committed to something. And I was like, all right, well, I'm taking Spanish. I'll just keep taking Spanish. It's easy. I'm good at it. No harm, no foul. And so, I just kept taking it, and I took it all the way through, AP, which was and then in college I started taking French, and I learn new languages on my phone now through Duolingo, and
Have you ever gotten to take that Spanish of yours for a walk? You ever have you ever been to Mexico or 13 blocks south of where you are now and try it out? Have you ever been in a situation where you saved the day because you knew Spanish?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I saved the day, but I have been able to use it to help people. There was a moment, I'm trying to remember what exactly was going on, but I think I remember I was traveling, and a friend of mine knew someone whose mother only spoke Spanish, and that woman needed help, like contacting someone who was like a family member who was possibly going to hurt themselves. And so I had to talk to the mother, and that was, and I was not, my Spanish wasn't perfect. I had no experience in like crisis management in Spanish, but I did the best I could, and hopefully I was helpful. It was,
Oh, you don't know if you're helpful or not?
well, I mean, I'm not still in contact with those folks, so like it was a one-time situation. So it's like, I hope
and that
I
woman
was.
went on to become the head of the Colombian cartel. Damn it, Stuart.
Yeah, I mean, it's as long as she's empowered, I guess.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I continued taking Spanish because I wanted to know what my teammates and opponents on the soccer field were saying.
Oh,
about
that makes sense
my
too.
friends and
Yes, yeah. The
me.
soccer element of it.
For a lighter note, when I would go to soccer tryouts, and there'd be plenty of kids who spoke Spanish, and one of my white teammates went up to this guy. He's like, "Hey, what's up, Hector?" And the kid's like, "Hey, what's up, maricon?" And I was like, "Oh, Hector hates you, Trevor."
You know the Spanish I know.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I had a friend growing up who he spoke Spanish at home, and so he would teach me all the terrible words.
You got to learn the curse words. Yeah,
you have to. You got to know when you're
just
being
to
insulted.
survive.
Mm-hmm.
Just to know what's going on. The diction in the curse words is half the battle too, because sometimes there's a form of greeting in Spanish that literally is an insult. But to us, if you were to put it in English, it would be like a, "Hey, what's up, bro?"
Yeah.
The funniest one, have you ever heard this one? This one vexed me for years, because I always had jobs where everyone spoke Spanish. When you would greet someone and you would say, "Hey, qué pedo," which literally translates to "what fart." But in the Spanish sort of diction of it, it's "what's up." It's like a silly, like, "Hey, what's going on?" And like, "Qué pedo?" And then, so that one took me a year to figure out, why do you guys say that? That sounds so weird. And then also, I love the Spanish nicknames. Everybody in high school had a friend, and he had a big ass, and he was called Nalga. I had 3 friends in the course of my life whose nickname was Nalga. And they would just be like, "Oh, hey, what's up, guys? Hey, what's going on?" It's like, why would you allow yourself to be called the ass for your friends? But that's the nickname. That's how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really get to choose our nicknames, and the people who do,
that's
choose
true.
their
We don't choose our nicknames.
Yeah, if you choose your nickname, you're not someone I want to be around.
There was another kid who had a mole on his cheek, and he was Chinate, which is rat. And he was just Chinate for 4 years of high school, and he would just, hang out, no problem.
Yeah.
Chinate.
Yeah, I didn't. I'm trying to think. I can't think of anyone right off the top of my head who had like a really crazy nickname, but yeah, it's good to know those things. And the way I'm able to keep in the practice of speaking Spanish is to tutor children who are taking Spanish classes. Like I can help you ace your class. I can help you with that if you are willing to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can help you survive in Colombia. If you were to drop out of a plane, but if you really need that help, we could work it out.
The last Spanish phrase I think every kid needs to learn is "no mames."
No mames way
can be used in about 27 different ways. It can be surprise, no mames. It can be anger, no mames. It can be agreement, ay, no mames. I have heard it so many different ways, and I've even caught myself using it too. I'm like, oh, I'm fluent now. I know no mames.
Versatile.
Yeah, I'm versatile. Well, I thought, I always do the Rotten Tomatoes head-to-head movie game with my guests.
Okay.
I thought for the Stuart Thompson edition, these are movies where the title is in Spanish.
Okay, perfect.
So I'll explain to you how the game works. I'm going to read you the description of a movie, and when you know the movie, you shout it out. You can get a point that way. Okay. And then there's 2 movies that will be head to head, and you just have to guess which one has the higher Rotten Tomatoes score. I have a practice one for you so you can get the hang of it. Leader in the clubhouse, leader in the casa, so to speak. Sean Leary got 6 points, but also I think it's important to know who the loser in the clubhouse is. Christina Marie Leonard 2 weeks ago got 1 point. So you got to do somewhere in between there. But here's your practice one. Wide range. Okay, here's your practice one. I'll read you the description and you shout out when you think you know the title of this movie. Here it is. A reluctant bagman has been given 2 ultimatums. The first, to retrieve an antique pistol or suffer the consequences. The second is from his girlfriend to end his association with the mob. He figures alive and in trouble is better than the more permanent alternative. So he heads south of the border.
Oh, okay. And the title's in Spanish?
The title, this is in Spanish. Yeah.
Goodness. Okay.
Yeah. This is a practice one. Don't stress out over it.
Yeah, no, I'm just realizing this could be a long game.
It's only 3 movies.
Okay, perfect.
It's only 3 head-to-head battles.
Great. I would say, okay, it's ties to the mob, retrieving an antique pistol. I'm stumped, man. I don't know.
This is from 2001, The Mexican.
Oh, that's not in Spanish.
That's true. That's not in Spanish. Well, this is a practice one. Sorry.
Oh, all right. I'm getting it now. Okay.
Okay. The rest.
Untrustworthy narrator.
Okay. There's a couple gray areas in here. You're right.
Okay.
Who's teaching who here? God damn it.
Okay.
Second movie, plunging headfirst into the dark border underworld, where he follows a trail of blood to the last of the infamous drug lords. With the help of a friend and a beautiful bookstore owner, one man leaves a trail of blood of his own. What do you think?
Sounds like a Machete.
From 1992, the movie is El Mariachi.
Oh, El Mariachi. Okay.
But now you're thinking, you're getting. I think
I was like, this sounds like a Danny Trejo movie.
Yeah. Well, your 2 movies, The Mexican versus El Mariachi. Who do you think has the higher Rotten Tomatoes score for practice?
I would say The Mexican. I think The Mexican had a more star-studded cast.
You're right. This is a Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts movie. The Mexican is rotten at 54%. El Mariachi, 64%.
Ooh.
All right, that was your practice. Now the
All
game's
right.
really on.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. Movie number 1. Shout it out when you know the title to this movie. A mysterious woman and her child arrive in a tranquil French town. No one could have imagined the impact that she and her spirited daughter would have on the community rooted in tradition. Within days, she opens an unusual sweet shop across from a church. Her ability to perceive her customers' desires and satisfy them with just the right confection coaxes the villagers to abandon themselves to temptation, just as Lent begins. Do you know the movie, Stuart?
I'm gonna guess. Is it como agua para chocolate? It's not. I feel like the French part is what throws me. That's.
I cannot accept that answer.
Okay.
It is from 2000. Chocolat.
Chocolat. Okay.
You were in there. Your brain is thinking.
Okay.
Okay.
Not
Movie
Spanish,
number
but
2.
okay.
A mythic guitar singing hero returns. He makes his way across a rugged landscape on a blood trail of a cartel kingpin with one last score to settle, who is planning a coup d'etat against a president, a corrupt CIA agent, and demands retribution.
A singing guitar player. Okay. So part of me wants to say El Mariachi 2 Electric Boogaloo or something like that. Is this a sequel to El Mariachi or something like that?
I will go as far as saying this is a sequel.
Oh, this is a sequel. Okay. Jeez. Louise. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to say El Mariachi 2 and just go from there.
Movie is from 2003, Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
And that's
which I think is a sequel to that franchise.
Oh, to El Mariachi?
I think so. I'm not sure on that one.
Oh, okay.
All right,
You're proving unreliable with some of these clues.
Hey, I'm loose with the rules.
Yeah.
Your movies are Chocolat versus Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Who do you think has the higher Rotten Tomatoes score, Stuart? Take me through your thought process.
I think people in cinema and movie reviewing value the French more than they do Latino people. So I'm going to say Chocolat.
Chocolat is 62% on Rotten Tomatoes. Once Upon a Time in Mexico, 66, Stuart.
Whoa.
66.
That's mad close.
I liked your mindset. It just was off. You're thinking like a critic, which is the way to go. All right, you can still get on the board. There's still time. You just got to beat Christina Marie Leonard.
We'll see.
Description: a traveling guitar player with the modest desire to play music looks for a job as he steps into a bar where his simple, peaceful lifestyle is interrupted. Local hitmen believe the visiting musician is a professional killer. Unwittingly embroiled in vicious warfare, the lowly musician must shoot his way out of town if he is to survive.
Oh, man. That is it. And this is supposed to be a movie that's either in Spanish or has a Spanish title?
This title is in Spanish.
Is in Spanish. Okay. Oh, goodness. What if I just kept guessing como agua para chocolate?
How many movies in Spanish can there be? You're bound to get one of these right.
I mean, it's remarkable how few I seem to know.
You need to go back to Spanish school, Stuart, learn about movies. Starting with Stand and Deliver. I watched that in multiple classes.
Yeah, I think we didn't watch a whole lot of movies in Spanish. I think we would watch like videos. We'd watch a lot of novelas.
That's really good for learning. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. But they were ones that were like made in the 80s or in the 90s. Like the shelf life on them was very strange.
A lot of Pepsi Clear talk.
Yeah. This was made in the time of Surge.
Remember Jolt? Did you ever have Jolt soda?
No, I did not have Jolt soda. I do remember it existing, but I did not have it. Okay, so I got to get to this answer. Okay, so there's again a guitar player who has to shoot his way out of things. I'm not sure, man. I'm gonna guess Machete. I don't think he played guitar, but I'm just.
That's also a good one. You can keep guessing.
Yeah.
Okay. From 1992, the movie is El Mariachi.
Wait, I thought we did this one already.
No, that wasn't. You guessed El Mariachi and you got it wrong. That was Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
No, but like in the clue one, wasn't one of those El Mariachi?
No, that was. Oh wait, was it? Hold on,
bro. I think it was.
Shoot, wait. How do I have two different? Sorry, you're right. I'm gonna give you that point. I messed up. How did I put the same movie?
I don't know, man. I was like, it sounds very similar, but it's like it must be a different movie. How I was like, there's no way he's repeating these movies. How
did I do that? That is weird.
I don't know. Maybe there really aren't that many movies.
Hold on, let me check the rest of my movies. Okay, no, the rest we should have no repeats.
Okay, cool. All right.
Okay, I will. I'll take that part out. I'll edit all this out. Okay, next movie description. The lives of two 17-year-old boys are ruled by raging hormones, intense friendships, and a headlong rush into adulthood. Over the course of a summer, the two friends, while living out a carefree cross-country escapade with a gorgeous older woman, also find connection with each other, themselves, and the world around them.
Okay. I'm getting like a.
This is the one I thought you would know for some reason.
Oh, okay. I'm getting a weird Harold and Maude double team kind of vibe.
Hey, that's a good point. This movie is kind of like that.
Okay, so two teenage boys older woman, cross-country escapades. And this is
Titles in Spanish. It's
Titles
not
in
El
Spanish.
Mariachi. If you guessed El Mariachi, I might have to give you a mercy point for that.
Yeah. That's a. I have no idea, man. I don't.
From 2001, the movie is Y tu mamá también.
Oh, Y tu mamá. Okay. Yeah.
This was one of those movies that like was an art house darling and your parents forced you to go see, but then you went to go see it and be like, this is a little racy for to see with my mom and dad.
I remember when that came out. I don't know if I went to see it, but I'm very bad at like going to the theater to like see movies, and I sometimes see them as they come out, but there's a lot of movies where people are like, you have not seen this?
Yes, this was definitely one. This was a lot in my family, especially like, you didn't see it. And also this was 2001. This was prime. Was this Men in Black era? There was some blockbusters at the time. So this was fourth and fifth down my list.
Okay. So, all right. So it's between
El Mariachi versus Y tu mamá también. Which one has the higher Rotten Tomatoes score? It's your chance to get on the board, Stuart.
I think because it's an art house movie, I would say Y tu mamá también.
Okay. El Mariachi is fresh, 94%.
Whoa.
Y tu mamá también is fresh, 92%. So close, Stuart. You got one last movie matchup to get on the board here.
All right.
Okay, here we go. Last round. Description. Working as a cook in a Mexican monastery hosting orphans, a need for money arises to feed the church residents. To raise money for the children, the cook moonlights as a lucha libre wrestler. The church, however, forbids lucha, and the secret wrestling cook must disguise his identity.
Is this Nacho Libre?
From 2006, Nacho Libre. You got it. You are on the board, Stuart.
Hell yeah.
Movie number 2. Returning to the family ranch with his beautiful fiancée, promising to fix its financial problems, trouble soon follows when one of the brothers' business dealings is found to be less than legitimate. All hell breaks loose when the most feared drug lord in Mexico declares war on the family.
I'm going to guess Machete again.
3/4 point. From 2012, the movie is Casa De Mi Padre. This was that weird Will Ferrell movie that was 100% in Spanish.
Oh,
I never fully knew what was going on in this movie.
Yeah, I didn't. I remember hearing about that movie coming out. I never went to see it, and I didn't realize that was the plot of it.
Right, a pretty serious plot for a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Which so is Nacho Libre, but you can kind of get that there would be funny stuff in there. Whereas
Jack Black sells it. Yeah,
there was this is 2006. This was a very high Jack Black era. We forget how high his stock was in these mid 2000s.
Really important to teenagers in the aughts.
Yes. Yeah. Jack Black. He was throwing heat in those times. So your movies are Nacho Libre versus Casa de Mi Padre. What do you think? To get out of last place, you're tied for last right now, but you can get 2 and get out of there. What do you think?
I'm going to say Nacho Libre.
Nacho Libre, final answer?
Mm-hmm.
Nacho Libre is rotten at 40%.
Okay.
Casa de Mi Padre is rotten at 42%. Stuart, you got 1 point. You know what?
You picked ones that were really close.
I had to make this game extra hard. Too many people were acing it.
Oh, I see. So this is
the revamped version of the.
Yeah, okay, so maybe we got to adjust these earlier point tallies for inflation.
Yeah, well, you're on the board. You got a point. No one has gotten 0 yet, and I would say
I can walk out with my dignity.
1 point, but an asterisk because I put El Mariachi twice in the.
It's like steroids in baseball. It's
yes, yeah. You took steroids, or I should say, I took the steroids.
Yeah, I should have taken steroids. Maybe I would have done better.
That's right. Where was that class? Well, Stuart, this has been a great interview. It's good seeing you again, and pretty soon, I hope we actually see each other in person.
Absolutely, man. Hopefully next time's in person.
That is it for the episode. I want to thank Stuart Thompson for digging deep and having a great interview with me, a great talk. Quite the round of Rotten Tomatoes, too, I might add. Those were not easy. So, you have to check, see how you did. This game's tough, people. I make it tougher all the time. So, be ready for anything when you listen to these episodes. So, thank you to Stuart for joining me on the episode. Gotta have him back. I feel like there's more in the tank there, more to talk about. And as stand-up comedy begins and grows and gets rolling in Southern California, I'm sure I'm gonna see him around some more. Can plan on it. Don't forget, plan on July 9th. You still got time. 9:30 p.m. Flappers Comedy Club. You can see me doing live stand-up comedy. And you can come say hello. flapperscomedy.com is their site, or you can always hit me up. Plan on that. Stand-up is back. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you haven't already on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, and you can see everything and stuff coming up, too. I'm always putting stuff up there, so you can be in the know. That is the show. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Stuart, and I will see you next time.